What's up, dude?
Hey, buddy. Going two-man today. Only got
Going with
two-man.
a two-man booth, dude.
Yeah.
Brooks is sick. Our lovely co-host Brooks is sick. He has a son who goes to preschool, and if you know anything about children, they carry a lot of diseases on them. So my brother has been bedridden for the last 2 days. So unfortunately, he's not going to be able to join us in the booth today for this pod. But we still got our two of our three, so we're just
Yeah.
as strong as ever. And Brian is definitely not playing through any injuries right now either. He's fine.
Yeah. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm a little sick. I'm playing a little wounded, and it's not like it's not a self-inflicted wounds either. This is just like legit sickness. And I've always bitched about how we haven't had a really good snow in Baltimore for a couple years, and of course, the minute it snows, I get sick as hell. So you reap what you sow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, it's unfortunate that we got to play through the injuries here, man. It's our flu
Yeah.
game, so.
Yeah. This is
Um,
the.
yeah, we're going to talk about some of the coaches that got fired, some of the job openings, and where we think there would be good fits for potential hires. We're going to talk about some of the decisions that were made to keep on coaches that we thought may get let go. Maybe we'll talk some Tyreek Hill. He seems like he wants out of Miami. We could even talk about this Fox Sport lawsuit, which is crazy weird. I don't know if you've been following that.
I have no idea what that's about. So you're gonna have to
And,
fill me in.
yeah, well, we can talk about that later. And also, and the title says it. It's Week 18 reactions. We got to talk about how Week 18 went and how the playoffs set up. And obviously on Thursday we'll make our picks and we'll go into depth on all of the playoff games and the matchups and who do we think is going to make it out of both sides. But we're not at 100% capacity right now, guys, as you can see. So we're not going to we're going to save that for next pod. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the job openings? Do you want to start with the Ravens game on Saturday? Take it wherever you want.
Let's start with the job openings. Why don't we fire that one off first? I was really surprised with Gerard Mayo.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get my that's a shame out of the way real early. That's a shame that they put him in that position to thrive. I'm sorry, they put him in that position to not thrive with a terrible roster. They made him the coach in waiting in his contract, so that puts added pressure on him. It probably didn't make Bill Belichick the happiest on his way out the door.
Yeah.
And then you give him a 1-year run at it with a terrible team. I mean, I can't name like 5 Patriots. And you got a rookie quarterback. I mean, it's completely set up for failure. And then you're going to can him. And you're going to probably try to bring in Mike Vrabel. The only reason you really make this move is if you already have a commitment from Vrabel that he wants to be the coach there.
I mean, look, I think Vrabel took that meeting with the Jets to kind of push New England's hand a little bit. I certainly do. And I think he's taking these, whatever. I think he took a meeting with Chicago and a couple other meetings as well. Look, am I shocked? No. But I just don't get it. I totally agree with you. They had the lowest total, projected over-under wins coming into the season. So we all knew and everyone expected this is a bad roster. We knew that the offensive line was going to be really bad. They traded Matt Judon not a couple weeks before the season. Christian Gonzalez is good, but he's the only good player on their defense, and one corner can make a defense go. And I think Drake May showed flashes of pretty good, but his offensive line was so bad. And like you said, can you name 2 receivers on the Pats? I can, but not many people can. Pop Douglas and Keyshawn Boutte. Just to name a few. I mean, they waived Juju Smith-Schuster before the season started. Yeah, I think that he kind of got I don't think he got too much of a fair shake here. Terrible roster coming in. You knew they were going to be bad. I do think it's crazy that he went out there thinking, all right, I'm still coaching for my job. Let's go get it done. And he cost them the number 1 pick, a la Lovie Smith costing the Houston Texans the number 1 pick a few years ago.
Yeah.
Which ended up working out. They ended up with C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson. So they had a pretty good draft regardless. But anyway.
The Patriots knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. They had a statement ready, and they delivered it an hour and a half. I think about an hour and a half after the game. They had already made up their mind they were firing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I don't know. They moved down from the 1st pick to the 4th pick, and they got no capital for it. I think that's hilarious, and honestly, I think they deserve it as an organization for what they just did to Gerard Mayo.
Yeah.
Gerard Mayo, he didn't do a good job. I'm not making excuses for him there, but
he didn't do a good job on the field. He didn't do a good job on the field, and I don't even think he did a good job off the field. He was pretty bad in these press conferences.
Yeah, he talked over himself a lot. He said, we think May has been doing the better job, but we're taking more things into consideration when they wanted to start Brissett at the beginning of the year instead of May. And then in the middle of the year, he was like, well, May's doing a better job. We're going to start him. It's just like you literally said the opposite earlier in the year. You don't want to put him behind this terrible offensive line. And look, I don't know. I thought it was out. I didn't think it was out of left field. I thought it could happen. I wasn't shocked when I read the news at all, but I just, I feel bad for Gerard Mayo. And, like we said, he didn't do a great job.
No.
Jacksonville fired Doug Peterson, but decided to keep on Trent Baalke. I think a lot of people expected that Baalke could get fired as well. What did you think about this? And do you think this is a desirable job, or do we think that the Trevor Lawrence contract kind of hamstrings them because he's not shown us that he's that good yet?
I don't know if it's a desirable job anymore. There's a real possibility that Trevor Lawrence may never really develop into what we all thought he was going to be. Trent Baalke has got a weird relationship with coaches. I think Jim Harbaugh wanted to kill him when he was in San Francisco.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I guess the owner likes him a lot, and you have some stability. That owner is Shad Khan. He wants to win. Like he really wants, but he also does it responsibly. When he talks about his personnel and his upper management, he's a smart man, and he seems like a guy that you'd want to work for. Baalke, I don't really know. Maybe they kept Baalke because Baalke's got a relationship more than these coaches that's out there.
Yeah. I saw that a bunch of the guys were looking to get interviews down there, and I was like, I don't know. Of all these jobs, I mean, none of them are great places to land because obviously the worst teams in the league are going to be the ones firing their coaches, but it doesn't look good right now.
Yeah. What did you think about it?
About Jacksonville? I mean, look, yeah. I think we all knew it was coming. I think they could have fired him in between those two London games that they had when their season really did go to die. I just think it was a year from hell for them. Do I expect them to be a playoff contender next year with a new coach? No. But I think a different coach in a different direction could rejuvenate this team and get them back into at least mix.
What in the world was that?
That was I don't know. I was getting added and removed. Anyway, that was
okay. That was really weird.
Yeah, let's use that opportunity. We'll move on to Chicago. I know you loved Matt Eberflus and his system. What did you think about Chicago? I mean, obviously we've known Chicago, New Orleans, New York Jets for a while. Who do you think? Let's take it this way. Who do you think would be a good fit for Chicago? And then we'll go to New Orleans and New York.
I can't believe this is about to come out of my mouth. Pete Carroll.
Wow. Okay. I've seen rumors. Mm-hmm. He's definitely interested.
Got a bunch of energy. Whenever you fire a coach, right? Normally you go the other way, right? You go from a defensive guy to an offensive guy. Well, Eberflus was very stoic, no emotion. Pete Carroll brings that emotion all the time. I mean, the man chews through a pack of gum during a game. And he's fired up and just needs to be moving. So
I think a lot of Chicago fans, and especially, Barstool Big Cat is like the most famous Chicago fan on the internet in terms of the sports world. He's calling for Ben Johnson. He wants Ben Johnson. He wants young blood. He wants that offensive coordinator that can help Caleb develop. And I don't blame him there, but I think organizational stability has been a big problem in Chicago for a long time. And I think Pete Carroll can bring that. So I agree with you there. I think he would be a good hire. And honestly, I don't think Ben Johnson would be a bad hire either, but also we've seen Ben Johnson basically straight up tell Washington, "No, I don't want to be the coach here." So do we know if he wants that job? Who knows? He could just want to stay in Detroit and get paid a shit ton of money to be an offensive coordinator and a really good one on a great offense.
A disservice was done to him last year when they said he wanted too much money. I mean, who knows if that was true or not? Maybe the team that he said that to, I can't remember who it was last year.
Washington.
Was Washington? Maybe they just didn't want to pay him up. Like what a normal coach makes. Organizational stability apparently is extremely, extremely important to him. I mean, look where he's at right now with the Lions, who family owned. They love Dan Campbell. They stick behind their guy. He's probably looking for something like that, and I don't know if job is really out there. Maybe the Jags, because Shad Khan wants to stand by his guys. But I'm not going to the Jets. Screw that. That's terrible.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Jets. Who do you think's going to go there? Because I know Rex Ryan has been applying for that job on ESPN Sunday Countdown for the last 6-7 weeks.
Yeah.
I know Vrabel took the interview there. Obviously, I think they're going to be looking for a new quarterback. I don't know if Devontae Adams is going to be around. They lost Mike Williams already. Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson don't seem happy. Sauce Gardner doesn't seem happy. I don't really know what the deal is here. I think Aaron Glenn from Detroit might have an inside job or inside track for this job, because I think when they fired Saleh, they really lost their identity, which was their defense, because even when Saleh was struggling earlier in the year, their defense was still playing well. And after they fired him, their defense was bad. So I can see them going defensive here, but also if they get a young quarterback in there, they might want to go for a Ben Johnson or a guy who's an offensive first kind of guy. I know Todd Monken has been requested by a couple teams. That was stuck for the Ravens.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Jets or New Orleans? Just take it wherever you want. Do you think desirable jobs? I don't think New Orleans is desirable.
I don't think New Orleans is desirable whatsoever. No quarterback.
Yeah, no quarterback and cap hell.
You're in cap. They've been kicking the can down the road for about a decade, and it's finally catching up to them.
Yeah.
The Jets, I wouldn't want to touch that job at all, because Woody Johnson and his whatever his son's name is, Brick or some stupid fucking name.
I think his name's Brick.
No, great. This is going to be whoever takes that job is going to be one of these first-year coaches who wants to get in the game. I don't think it's going to be Ben Johnson, basically for what I just said earlier about organizational stability.
Yeah.
So you could even look at a Pete Carroll who's just dying to get back in the league and will take anything and see if you can throw something against the damn wall.
Was he a Jets coach before he went back to college? Right.
Yeah.
That's where he was. Right. Yeah.
He was with the Patriots and he was with the Jets. I think it was reversed. Jets, then Patriots. It doesn't matter. And then he went back to the USC.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I remember that about him. Titans fire their GM, which means a new GM will be responsible for what's going to happen with the first overall pick in the NFL draft this year, which is interesting. I think we saw this a couple years ago when Ryan Poles and the Bears had the number 1 overall pick, and they ended up trading it to the Carolina Panthers for that haul that ended up getting Caleb Williams and a bunch of people for Bryce Young. It's interesting. I don't know if the Titans are going to opt to trade this pick. I would think they would want to take a quarterback, but I know this draft is not. I know people aren't exactly excited about the quarterback draft class as a whole here. I mean, do they stick and pick Shedeur Sanders? Do they trade down and try to get a king's ransom for the number 1 pick? It's going to be interesting to see. I think they really need a lot there. I don't think it's going to be a one guy and they're good kind of thing.
I can't remember. Normally, throughout the duration of the year, because the NFL is 24/7, 365, and you would hear about the draft and like the hot players coming out. I can only think of like 3 really big hot names: Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and Travis Hunter. Those are really the only 3 that I can think of. There's no stud pass rusher, I don't think. There's no great offensive tackle. Like last year, people were talking about Alt from Notre Dame. I mean, obviously the names that came out of the draft last year with Daniels and Caleb Williams, phenomenal. So this is a bad year to have the first overall pick. It's like the year the Chiefs had the first overall pick and they took a lineman named Eric Fisher out of like Central Michigan or something.
He made a Pro Bowl in like his 8th season. He didn't make a Pro Bowl until he was like a grizzled vet. He had a decent career and he played for a long time, but not number 1 pick worthy kind of guy. And it just we see these drafts every now and then. If you remember a couple years ago, it's the same thing. Kenny Pickett and who was it? Kenny Pickett and somebody else were the top guys. Will Levis.
Think so.
Did those guys end up panning out? Did those guys work out? I mean, they ended up going later in the first round, but they went a little bit later than we expected. And I don't know. I think people do like Shedeur and Cam Ward enough to take them in the top 10. And I know a lot of teams need quarterbacks, but we also have to see what happens with Sam Darnold. We have to see what happens with Kirk Cousins. Is Russell Wilson going to be in Pittsburgh? Is Justin Fields going to be in Pittsburgh? There's a lot of question marks. So we don't know. Is Brock Purdy going to be in San Francisco still? There's a lot of moving parts this offseason. Staying, I know you thought Mike McDaniel might get fired. He and GM Chris Greer are safe in Miami. Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard are both safe in Indianapolis. I cannot believe they didn't fire Ballard, but whatever. They did fire Gus Bradley, their defensive coordinator, which I think they should have done in week 4. He was a complete joke and made Drew Lock look like Peyton Manning a couple weeks ago. Brian Daboll and GM Joe Schoen are also safe in New York for the Giants. What do you think about what stands out about all of these moves? Really, there's shockers in every situation.
I mean, I just right to the last one that you gave there. How in the hell Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen have jobs? The Mara family must be hurting for money.
Yeah.
So I don't know why the hell these people would you'd want to keep them. They just don't have anything going on there. They're regressing. So
I like Daboll. I don't dislike him. I mean, I don't think he's that bad of a coach. Obviously, they had a terrible season, but their quarterback play has been abysmal, and also their offensive line play has been abysmal. I don't necessarily think it's Daboll's fault, and I'm sometimes I'm glad when guys are given another opportunity as opposed to just, like the Gerard Mayo line of thinking where you're just like, all right, it didn't work out in 1 year and he's gone. I mean, what could Gerard Mayo have done for New England? If they would have won 6 games, would he have kept his job? Like, what? I don't know.
The Daboll thing, the Daboll and Shane thing, they've had plenty of time to right the ship. And Joe Shane should not have a job simplistically for one main reason. That's because Saquon Barkley is currently playing for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
And, he paid Daniel Jones. Those are 2 major, major mistakes.
Yeah. I mean, look, I totally agree with you. I like Daboll staying. I think the GM could have gone. But whatever, they're sticking with him. They're going to have a top pick in this draft, and we're going to see how they go with it. And like you said, it's not a loaded draft. So not going to be retooling in the draft as much unless, you find those guys in the 2nd and 3rd round. Which is always tough to do. We see the best teams in the league are able to do it consistently, and the worst teams in the league struggle to compete. And it's because they don't draft very well. So we'll see if he can pull out a draft in the lower rounds. Tyreek Hill comments that he wants out. He said, basically, I'm out of Miami. In his post-game press conference the other day, he also changed his Twitter picture yesterday to the picture of Antonio Brown running off the field, giving the peace sign when he took his jersey off the field, but put his face on it. It's ridiculous. It's a complete clown show. It's Tyreek Hill is like the NBA version of an NFL player at this point. He just wants out, so he's just going to say, okay, I'm out, and then just make the team bend to his will. I think he's been like this. He was like this in Kansas City when Kelsey was getting too many targets. I don't want to be here anymore. He forced his way out. And honestly, last year I would have told you he was one of the top 3 receivers in the league. After this year, he didn't have hardly any explosive plays. I don't think he got to 1,000 yards. I know the quarterback situation there was kind of wonky, but I don't know what you're getting out of Tyreek Hill, who's getting into his 30s at this point. What do we think about this? Do you want him on your team? Because I sure don't.
No, he's the problem.
Yeah,
he's the problem. I could see him going back to Kansas City. They have a propensity to bring back players. See Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm blanking on a couple of Kareem Hunt. Mm-hmm. They kind of do the New England method too, which is let the guy go and then bring him back a couple of years later. So I could see that. That would be pretty terrifying if you did go back to Kansas City. Having Xavier Worthy and him, 2 track stars going down each side of the field, that'd be.
And Hollywood, that's a 1-year deal though. I think he's a free agent. Anyway, we won't get into this Fox Sports situation just because I want you to read up on it and give me your opinion on it. So I don't want to sway you so much, but the internet has been going to town on this, and it involves Jason Taylor's little sister Joy, Skip Bayless, Emmanuel Acho, and a lot of weird moving parts at Fox. So we'll let you guys read up on that, and we'll discuss that further when Brooks is on the podcast.
Is this sexual in nature or? Okay, all right, yeah. That's unfortunate. I mean, I'm going to read it, but
it doesn't seem to be sexual predatory except for the Skip Bayless part, but we'll get into it anyway. Week 18. Let's talk about the Ravens Cleveland game. I was at a work employee party during this game, so I got to watch most of the first half. Didn't tune in for a ton of the second half. I know Derrick Henry went kind of crazy in this game. Lamar didn't have his best game numbers wise, and I know he came off the field after the game and was like, we won that game handily, but I don't think the offense played very good. I know Zay Flowers got hurt. I don't know how much that will impact his availability in the playoffs. It seemed like he was quote unquote day to day. That's what they're saying, but it doesn't look great. Didn't look great. But anyway, we're playing the Steelers Saturday night, 8 p.m., and we got the 3 seed and we won the AFC North. What did you take away from that? And what were your expectations of the Ravens coming into the season, and did they live up to them at least thus far?
Yes, they have. Yeah, I thought we looked really good on Sunday or on Saturday. I mean, I thought we look pretty good. I like that we're peaking right now. I really do. The Zay Flowers stuff is very concerning. It looks like he most likely will not play. That's like you're hearing more of that than you're hearing he's been ready to rock and roll. Yeah. They're keeping pretty close to the vest, which is understandable. It's typical Raven stuff. And I will say this. I was surprised to see the line at what it is. I think it's 9.5.
It's 10 now.
Damn.
It opened at 8.5, and I looked at it and I was like, that's way too high. That's going to be closer to 6 by game time. And then I looked at it a day later and it was 9.5, 10. I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe it either.
No idea.
I mean, the Steelers are regressing. Yeah, knock on wood here. We're going to say all this shit, and they're going to go out and beat
It's Ravens Steelers, guys. How are you guys not know this? Like,
yeah, I mean,
if I'm any other fan in the NFL, I'm hammering the Steelers. I'm putting the Steelers in a tease. Like, I love the Ravens, and I think we're great, and we're peaking at the right time, and they're on the downslip. I get it. But it's Ravens Steelers. It's the third time we've played each other this year. It's going to be cold as shit in Baltimore, and we're missing one of our best offensive weapons. Not our best offensive weapon, I wouldn't say, but one of the guys that stretches the field.
Yeah.
One of the guys that, honestly, Pittsburgh had a little bit of a problem with him earlier in the season. So I think that's going to be tough. I'm not excited that we have to play the Steelers, but I do think we are the better team for sure. But 10, that line is way too high.
Way too high.
I think it's crazy.
This is going to be a 3-point game or a 4-point game. It's always like it's under 7 all the time. I'm stunned to see this.
It's just like it feels like the reason the line is 10. It feels like Baltimore is going to put up 28-30 no matter what, and Pittsburgh hasn't put up those kind of numbers on offense at all in the last 4 weeks. And our defense is playing better, but I know what these games are like, and when you get into the game and all of a sudden it's the first quarter's over and it feels like the game just started and it's 3-0 Ravens. And it's just like, oh shit, this is going to be a game. And that's just what it feels like to me. That's how the game feels like it's going to go. And hopefully we're able to right the ship. But it just feels like a slow start spot for the Ravens, and I don't love it.
They lived up to my expectations. Going back to your original question, they lived up to my expectations. I really enjoy this team. I love what Moncton did with the offense. He deserves a chance to get a head coaching job if that's something he wants. The only thing going against him is he's a little bit more of an advanced. He's at an advanced age. You see the NFL going younger and younger and younger. Even though I know I brought up Pete Carroll, who was the oldest coach in the NFL, but he acts like a 50-year-old. He doesn't act like a 75-year-old.
Yeah.
So
he's a rare case.
Yeah, but I mean, they lived up to my expectations. Very happy with the season, and let's keep this rock and roll. Now, I got a question for you.
Sure.
If we beat Pittsburgh, hopefully, can you see the Steelers moving on from Tomlin?
No, I can't. I mean, look, I'm sure if you're a Steelers fan, you're sick of winning 9 and 10 games every year and then getting bounced in the first and second round of the playoffs. But have they had a quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger was good at football, which was, let's be honest, was probably 5 years before he retired?
Yeah.
Since AB and Juju that last year, that was, and the Le'Veon, I think that was probably the last really good Ben Roethlisberger season. That was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, they're winning 9 and 10 games every year with quarterbacks that aren't good. I just don't think you can fire that guy. I just don't think you can. And I know the Steelers as an organization are I don't think they would. I mean, what would you do if you were kind of stuck in sort of this like middling, a little bit above average kind of like, I don't want to say Kirk Cousins zone, but for a while Kirk Cousins was like the heir apparent of this quarterback wise. What would you do? I mean, obviously, I think Tomlin's better than Kirk Cousins. I don't even know why I just made that comparison. I'm probably going to piss off so many Steelers fans.
Yeah. See, two things. They're always in the middle of the pack. right? They're like drafting like 19 or 20 every year.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get a stud draft pick unless you trade up. I don't know when. I can't remember when they last won a playoff game. I'm being serious. I think it might have been against the Ravens. And another thing, this is the biggest juxtaposition. Like, I love Tomlin. I think he's a great coach. I love listening to him talk. He's very matter of fact. It seems like his players enjoy him. He knows how to manage a locker room. For God's sakes, think of the asshats that were on that team, and Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. He held them in check. He didn't even know Antonio Brown was a problem until the end of his Pittsburgh tenure. But I love Tomlin, but apparently people in Pittsburgh hate him. And like that's the biggest void. Like,
yeah. And I mean, we've seen it a little bit in Ravens land with Harbaugh over the course of the years. I mean, there's been a couple years where we were kind of middling as far as the Ravens go, at least, and people were calling for Harbaugh's head. And honestly, I don't love it. I think organizational stability. Look, would you rather be a fan of Chicago, who's changing their quarterback and their coach every 2-3 years, or would you rather be a team that's successful pretty much year in and year out and gives you a chance to win? And honestly, no matter what, they're always prepared on defense, and that's someone's thing. And I think that's a great way. Honestly, they need a better offensive coordinator. They need one of those things where, you know how Spagnuolo gets paid like a head coach for Kansas City, but he's not actually a head coach, and he's never going to go anywhere because nobody ever wants. They need that, but on the offensive side of the ball, and they just need a better quarterback, and they're going to win games because I think that guy instills a culture, and I don't think. Joe says he thinks Tomlin's going to get traded. Remember for 3 months, by the way.
There you go. Remember 3 months.
And British Raven says Tomlin has a no trade clause, so you have to agree with it. There's no way he's going to get traded. He's going to be the coach for the Steelers for the next at least couple of years. I think.
I know I'm jumping to another team real quick, but I haven't heard. I can't remember the last time a coach got traded. It might have been John Gruden, or it might have been actually
Sean Payton.
Sean Payton.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's chatter about Kevin O'Connell maybe being traded. I haven't heard about this many coaches possibly getting traded.
They won 14 games this year with Sam Darnold. What are you talking about?
I know
trading that guy.
Yeah, I was listening to Albert Breer talk about it on DP show. I'm like, what? He won 14 fucking games. But you never know what's going on behind the scenes. There could be like on the little piece of discord between like ownership or GM or something. We don't know. We're not behind those closed doors. But I cannot see Kevin O'Connell getting traded. But just even hearing the idea of it was kind of, a punch in the face.
Yeah, that's crazy. To answer your question from earlier, by the way, the last Steelers playoff win, they've lost 5 straight playoff games. Their last playoff win was 2016 when they lost in the AFC Championship game to New England, who ended up going on to beat the Rams, I believe, in that Super Bowl. Or maybe 2016, that could have been the Eagles, the year the Eagles beat them. I can't remember. I know I watched that at Elvis's house in that weird fancy building you guys used to live in.
Yep.
And he always used to drink Makers at the bar, but he drank Jameson at home. Or maybe it was the other way around. I can't remember. I haven't talked to that guy in forever. I miss you, Elvis. Okay.
Oh yeah, I saw him. I saw him like 4 months ago, 3-4 months ago. He randomly came in town. Yeah, dude, he pulled up and because Elvis always drove some sort of exotic car, like the really nice Jaguar or really nice Range Rover or something. He just pulls up one day and comes on in the bar. I'm like, what the fuck? No warning, nothing. I haven't seen you in 3 years. So you just show up out of nowhere.
I remember we went to Deep Creek once and he fell on the mountain and he came back and he couldn't even walk in the Deep Creek cabin.
I know. And I remember I didn't know he hurt himself when he was snowboarding or whatever. And I pushed him like as a joke. And he was like, ah!
All right. Anyway, let's move on to the other games. Chicago beat Green Bay. Jordan Love gets hurt is the big news from this game. And also Christian Watson tears his ACL. Christian Watson, without him, they've really been missing kind of that deep threat, the guy that can stretch the field. He was sort of the Marquez Valdez-Scantling of this team. And you don't really need those guys per se, but they do make your job a lot easier if you're a kind of team that has a lot of smaller receivers like Dobbs, like Jaden Reed. That kind of get in and out. I think that guy who can stretch the field really makes the defense, keeps the defense honest. And I think it's going to be tough without him. And also, Jordan Love didn't play in the second half of this game basically at all because he hurt his elbow, arm. I don't know exactly what it was. The the line reflects in the playoff game. It's Philly by 4.5. The line reflects that they expect Love to play. I would think that would be the line. I don't think that would. If Malik Willis was playing, I think that line would be closer to 8. So I assume Jordan Love is going to give it a shot, but I think losing Watson really hurts. What did you take away from Chicago Green Bay? Do you think it's a win for Chicago? Do you care about Chicago, or do you just taking Green Bay stuff away from this?
I don't care about Chicago right now. But Green Bay, talk about really losing. You lost the game, you lost your quarterback, and you lost your receiver. And the only reason they really were pumping to win that game was because they didn't want to play the Eagles. Now,
still have to play the Eagles.
On the flip side of that, they still have to play the Eagles. But I don't know what's going on with Jalen Hurts.
Still in concussion protocol.
Still concussion protocol, yeah. And a reporter asked if he was in the building. And Sirianni wouldn't even answer that. So that leads you to believe he might not even be at the facility. So that's even more terrifying if they don't even want him coming into the facility because I don't know, maybe overstimulated or something like that. Want to do football shit.
Green Bay's got a pretty good defensive front too. It's not like you can just run Saquon Barkley into the line 35 times. I mean, it's going to be a tough physical game, I would think.
And if I remember correctly, Kenny Pickett, he needed to get shot up in his ribs in order to get through that game.
Yeah, well, Tanner McKee was playing this weekend. He actually looked kind of good. He played against the Giants, so
that's why I think this is the most this game coming up, the Green Bay Eagles. That's the most intriguing game of the weekend for me.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked that wasn't the Sunday night game, that they decided to put Tampa and Washington in that Sunday night game. But I guess, honestly, you don't know if either quarterback's really going to play for the Eagles and Packers. And if that's going to be your Sunday night game, you kind of have to know. I would assume that's why they did it. I also think this Monday night playoff game in the playoffs is complete horseshit. I think it's complete. I think it's terrible. I think it gives the team who comes out of it such a disadvantage going into the next week. And I know you can say whatever, it's just one day. This shit matters, man. I think that's ridiculous that they make teams do that. I don't like it at all.
I understand why they do it, but it's not fair. It's more money. It's not fair. I mean, look, it's great for like you and I and our businesses. It brings people to the bar.
Yeah,
come watch the game, especially if the game is any good.
Yeah,
I know why. I mean, without knowing if either quarterback is playing, you want star power in that 8:00 game, and you get it with Jalen Daniels, and you get it with Baker Mayfield. So just because they're kind of polarizing players, Baker more for his antics, and Jalen Daniels more for his play. So
the white powdery stuff has found its way to Arkansas. That's what's up, Joe. We got 6 inches yesterday during the day, and then we were supposed to get 3 or 4 more last night. We only got 1 last night, but it's still out there, man. It's a mess, and it's very fluffy. What about you guys? Brian, got it?
Yeah, we got it. I want to say we got like 5 or 6. It was nice actually finally seeing snow. It just sucks that I feel like hell now. But I didn't even know it ever snowed in Arkansas. But then again, I guess there was an ice storm in Dallas one year. They had the Super Bowl, so that nothing should surprise me when it comes to weather nowadays.
Vortex. We got to see Houston and Tennessee, and I took nothing away because CJ Stroud got taken out of this game early, and we got to see Davis Mills in his giant neck play in this game. Not taking anything from that game. Who cares?
So I was watching DP show before we came on today, and one of the guys goes, "What's your favorite sports tradition?" And it's like, hey, the Masters jacket, the ceremonial handshake after a hockey series ends. And then he pulls up his favorite tradition is the Houston Texans playing their first playoff game on Saturday at 3:00. It's like their last 8 playoff games have all been the Saturday day game at 3:30. It's ridiculous.
It's like 8 out of the last 12 4:30 AFC slots have been the Texans.
That's what the NFL thinks of
it's
you.
Awesome.
Like you can't draw.
Look, the Chargers have no fan base, and the Texans are a complete dumpster fire this season. It makes sense that they're the first game of the playoffs. And sorry to say, look, I'm sure there's some sort of fan base for the Chargers at some point, but they estranged the fans in San Diego, as I know, because my family is from San Diego. And also, LA cares about the Rams, and honestly, they don't really care about anything but the Lakers in LA anyway. It's a transplant city. Texans are going to be playing host to the the Chargers, and we'll talk about those games more in depth on our Thursday pod. But we're really just going to cover the Week 18 stuff, unless you have something from the game.
No. Completely out of left field. You just made me think about it when you brought up the Lakers. I don't like the NBA. I'm not a big NBA guy. I'm more of a college basketball guy. Hence, Gary Williams stole my lawn furniture. But the Cleveland Cavaliers are having a sneaky historical season, and
They're
one's paying attention to them. They're like 32-4 or something.
They're sick.
and I think I can only name 2 Cleveland Cavaliers. So, let's see. Colin Sexton, I believe, still plays for them. Nope. No. All right.
It's a real long time since he's played for them.
Donovan Mitchell definitely plays for them.
Yes, he does.
And I think that might be it. It's like Lauri Markkanen play for them or something like that. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, they have Darius Garland, Evan Mobley.
Wow.
Jarrett Allen, I believe, plays for them. Anyway, they're really good. And I think everyone kind of just assumed Boston was going to run away with the East, and Cleveland's not letting them. Cleveland's way ahead of them, honestly, at this point. Boston's kind of under the radar this year and going to turn it on when the playoffs start, is my opinion.
This is why I don't like the NBA. I know we're talking to majority football, but this is why I don't like the NBA. The only NBA topic I really hear about right now is how bad the Lakers are. The Oklahoma City Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers are having great seasons. Victor Wembanyama is, once in a generation. He is. If you don't get him now, he is going to win like 3 or 4 MVPs, but before the age of 27. He is a stud.
He went against 21.
He went against Joker, who's most likely right now the best player in the NBA.
He is.
And he made Joe. He went head to head with him, and it didn't flinch. This kid's 21 years old, and Joker's probably like 31,
31, I think. Yeah.
But get him now.
There was some crazy stat that Joker's averaging like 30, 12, and 15 or something like that. It's crazy, his numbers, but he's averaging more points than Kobe ever did in one season. He's averaging more assists than Steve Nash ever did in a season, and more rebounds than Duncan ever did. It's something crazy like that, and I probably got the names wrong. Yeah. He's also shooting like 51% from the 3-point line.
Yeah,
which is outrageous.
And he doesn't shoot as much as you would think with those point numbers.
No, it's crazy. He doesn't want to shoot. He wants to pass, but his team sucks, so he has to.
Well, he's one of the most boring basketball players to watch, but he's so good.
Yeah, he's just so good at like slowing down his body. Anyway, let's talk about something else. Nobody watches this for our NBA analysis. Washington, Dallas. Jaden Daniels got taken out of this game early, and Mariota took over. Mariota actually looked pretty good. Cooper Rush had a contract incentive if he played more than 50% of the snaps in this game. He would have gotten a big bonus. So instead, they started Trey Lance to save some money in Dallas, it looks like. CeeDee Lamb didn't play in this game. This game doesn't matter other than the fact that Washington won. And because they won, they will be playing, instead of the Philadelphia Eagles, they will be playing the number 3 seed, which I believe is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
So I think, honestly, that's a significant win for Washington. I'd much rather play Tampa than the Eagles, although Tampa, their offense is scary. That line is 3 in favor of Tampa, I guess, because Tampa's at home. Honestly, I think Washington's better than Tampa, and I don't think that line should be 3. I think it should be closer to a pick 'em. So I'm probably burying the lead on our Thursday pod, but I'm going to be taking Washington in that game for sure.
Well, rookie quarterback first playoff game, not Baker's first playoff game. So I think that's where you're probably seeing that line move to where it is.
It's true. And this is a Bucs team that I've liked all year, and you know how I feel about Bucky Irving and those guys. Jalen McMillan, by the way, 5 straight games with a touchdown.
Yeah, he's killing it. And my that was awesome of the week was without a doubt what they did with Mike Evans to get him over 1,000 yards, to get him a $3 million incentive bonus. And I think because they should have just taken a knee. And there's no information on this, but it almost looked like the Saints knew that Evans was going to get the ball, needed that catch for what we just discussed,
and they didn't care.
And they didn't care. Like they backed off. Like they completely backed off and let him get that. I think he needed like 6 yards or something in that catch to get $3 million.
Yeah.
So.
And also that was now his 11th straight season with 1,000 yards. First person to ever start a career that way. Crazy. Just absolutely crazy. I think Jerry Rice is the only guy who's done it more times than Mike Evans.
14
which
for
Jerry Rice holds every record in receiving by a large margin. Jacksonville, Indianapolis, this doesn't matter except for seeding. Jonathan Taylor, 177 yards on the ground. Brian Thomas, 100 yards on the ground. But like I said, this game didn't matter at all except for who's going to draft where. I can't believe Steichen and Ballard are both back. I think Steichen he should be back. I don't think Ballard should.
No.
My personal opinion. But obviously they figured out the run game with Jonathan Taylor in those last like 3 or 4 weeks. He went absolutely apeshit and won some people fantasy leagues, I would assume. Tampa and New Orleans. This game was kind of scary for Tampa for a little while. They needed to win this game or have Atlanta lose, which they ended up doing, but they were winning most of the game. Mike Evans hits 1,000 yards again. That's what I had on this game as well. Mm-hmm. I don't like how long it took Tampa's offense to get going against a team in New Orleans who I don't think is very good. But awesome for Mike Evans for getting his incentive, and Bucky Irving another 89 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Just that guy's a stud. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know if Rachaad White's going to get any carries in the playoffs. Carolina completes their season comeback and ends up 5-12. They were 2-15 last year, so a three win swing for them in comparison to last year, and they spoil Atlanta's chance to potentially make the playoffs here. I think they went to Michael Penix a little bit too late in the season. It just didn't seem like he had the reps. And Bryce Young looked really good at the end of the year. I don't know necessarily if that means Carolina is going to be a team to be trifled with in the NFC South next year, but it certainly looks like they're cooking something. I don't know the offensive scheme. I don't know what happened, but Bryce Young looked like a guy who had zero confidence, and now he looks like a guy who has confidence. He had 5 total touchdowns in this game, threw 3, ran for 2 more. And they lost Chuba Hubbard, and I thought that was really going to affect their offense because he was really good for them, and it didn't. Miles Sanders stepped in and did a good job. What did you think about? Do you have any thoughts on either of those 2 NFC South matchups, or do you just want to keep on moving it forward?
Nah, keep on moving it forward. I don't really have anything else to bring to the table that you haven't already said.
Yeah. New England beats Buffalo in a game that New England needed to lose and Buffalo didn't care about. Josh Allen goes in and plays 1 snap. It's a handoff to James Cook and then gets pulled because he wanted to keep his starting streak intact. I think he started every game for like 6 or 7 straight years. Mm-hmm. And that's something that matters. And I understand why they did that. Trubisky played. I think they put somebody else in at the end to play. I don't know. Joe Milton looked awesome in this game. He was running around. He has an absolute cannon for an arm. Yeah. He's super limited because I think he's not very mobile a lot. And he's kind of plays like a statue in the pocket. At least in college, I saw that a lot. Mm-hmm. But he looked good in this game, and they won the game, and it took them from the number 1 overall pick to the number 4 overall pick, and their coach got fired anyway. So a complete disaster if you're a New England fan, I'm sure. I don't know why they didn't just start Jacoby Brissett and completely just tank this game. But whatever. Doesn't really matter. Giants go to Philadelphia and lose. Drew Lock comes back down to earth and is human again because he's not playing against a terrible Colts team. Jahan Dotson, 94 receiving yards in this game. Forgot that guy existed.
Yep.
Tanner McKee threw 41 times, which is outrageous. What? 2 touchdowns, no picks. Philly 14-3, number 2 seed. Most years that's good enough for the 1 seed, but they get the 2 seed and they got to play the Packers, who are tough. Chargers, Raiders. Chargers dominated. I mean, I got nothing else to say. Quentin Johnston, 186 yards. I didn't think I would ever say that after how bad he was as a rookie last year. Good for him for turning it around. Seattle beats the Rams in a game that doesn't matter. Although it did matter for Seattle's Geno Smith because I believe he hit almost $6 million in incentives in this game based on passing yards, touchdowns, and their 10th win of the season. Also, Mike McDonald, good for him. Really good job as a head coach for his first year, taking a team that had not very many expectations to a 10-7 record. Good enough to make the playoffs in most years, but this NFC is loaded. And the Rams sat Matt Stafford and all of their offensive weapons that matter. Puka, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams did not play in this game. So, the Rams lose, but it doesn't matter. They get the 4 seed, and they are playing the Vikings. If they would have won, they would have gotten the 3 seed, and they would have played Washington. I think Washington and the Vikings are close enough. I don't know.
Watch the fucking Rams beat the Vikings. Just why?
It's just and that's that stupid Monday night game, by the way.
Watch them beat them, and then you're going to hear. I mean, Vikings people might take the Viking horns and try to stab Roger Goodell.
I think the Rams. I mean, if you're ranking the playoff teams from good to bad, I think the Rams are in the bottom 3, and I think the Vikings are in the top half. So I don't know. I think the Vikings should win that.
All the makings. This has all the makings of. Do you remember? Was it the Saints had to go play a 7-9 Seattle Seahawks team and lost in the playoffs, and the Saints were good. They had like 11 wins or something, but because Seattle had won their division, they got a home game and then beat them. This has not as good as the Vikings, but they'll just win this game.
Look, I don't disagree with you. If the Vikings looked as bad in the red zone as they did on Sunday night against they're certainly not winning any playoff games. But I don't know. I think this Rams offensive line gives me the ick because they had a Monday night game against the Dolphins earlier in this year where Calais Campbell literally ate them for breakfast. And from then on, I just could not watch the Rams and think that they had a chance against any decent defense. And I think Minnesota's defense is better than decent. I think it's one of the best ones in the NFL. I think they're going to force them to throw it quickly. And I know they had Puka and Cooper Kupp, who's been MIA for a while. But I just think the Vikings have too much firepower for the Rams. And honestly, maybe it worked out for me that they lost to the Lions in such a blowout fashion because now I'm going to be able to back the Vikings at a better number because I think the line would have been closer to Vikings -3. And I think it's like 1.5 right now. So I don't know. We'll talk more about that next week. Kansas City and Denver. I thought this game had a chance to be close. It was not. Bo Nix went absolutely apeshit. 26 out of 29 for over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and also added 47 yards rushing. Marvin Mims has been really good for them over the last couple of weeks, in addition to Cortland Sutton. Broncos make the playoffs as a 7 seed, despite having over $90 million in dead money against the 2024 cap. If you guys don't know, your 2024 cap number was somewhere around $255 million. So they're missing 35 to 40% of their salary cap potential, and they still made the playoffs. So really, really, really good job from Sean Payton getting everything he could out of this team and getting everything he could out of Bo Nix, who I think we were all kind of flip-floppy on coming out of the draft. Chiefs don't care about this game, obviously. They don't have to play a meaningful game until January 20th.
Arizona. If the Broncos don't have a rookie quarterback, I don't know if they can field a team because they're going to have. Because you got to pay what quarterbacks are going for $40 million a year now. So with having that nice rookie deal, at QB, you're allowed.
I cannot wait for 3 or 4 years from now when people are talking about how Bo Nix does or does not deserve a $50 million contract. It's going to be hilarious. Anyway, San Francisco, Arizona. This game didn't matter. Josh Dobbs started. Arizona kicked the absolute dog shit out of San Francisco in the fourth quarter, 21-0 in the fourth quarter alone. And Trey McBride caught another touchdown pass after going 15 straight weeks with no touchdown catches, 98 catches, and he's caught 2 in the last 2 weeks, which is hilarious. Aaron Rodgers threw 4 touchdowns in what I would imagine is his last game in the NFL, one of them to Davante Adams. He hit 500. He's one of, I think, 5 quarterbacks ever. I think it was Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and Brett Favre, I believe, are the only other 4 quarterbacks that throw 500 touchdowns. And I could be wrong. I could be missing somebody.
I think you're right.
I think those are the guys. So obviously, one of the best careers ever. The last couple of years have been weird. I know Brian doesn't like him. Brooks likes him too much for whatever reason. And I'm somewhere in the middle. Definitely will say 5-10 years ago, I would have said he's my favorite quarterback to watch. Just so much fun to watch and so efficient. The way he threw the ball was just unbelievable.
This leads me to my second that's a shame of the weekend.
Dolphins and cold weather?
No. The Jets. the Jets came out of the tunnel with the American flag upside down. Yep. Yep.
And
that
is
is
not
indicative.
the most Jets thing you've ever heard in your life.
That is just a microcosm of their season right there. They came out with the American flag fucking upside down. Good job.
Oh man. Is Brooks in timeout today? No, Brooks is sick because his very, very young son goes to a school with a lot of children, and children carried a lot of pathogens and diseases. So my brother is bedridden for the second day in a row. We didn't go yesterday. We thought we were going to be able to get him in today, but he wasn't able to go, and we got to talk to you guys. So we got on here without him.
We got to.
We got to talk about the big man INT for Pierce. You're right. I don't know how we missed this.
We missed it.
It's going to be my dad's. That is awesome. I have this at the bottom somewhere on the notes. But anyway, I can't believe he took the knee right away. I wish he would have tried to return it. But honestly, I think his instincts were completely right. If this was a playoff game, it really mattered. I think you just got to take a knee real quick. If you're 360 pounds and catching balls. What did you like about that, Brian? What'd you say?
I love the celebration by the team afterwards. It was great. I mean, everything about that it was a home run.
The best part for me was that normally when the big guys get an interception like that, it's like a tip ball at the line. It goes way up in the air and it just kind of falls into their. I picture the scene from the Replacements where the ball just lands in Jumbo's hands and he just starts rolling. Yeah. But
you sometimes you get a fat guy dance. It's nice. This is the fat guy slide.
Yeah.
What is everything about it was cool. I think he made the comment like the car ran out of gas or something like that.
Yeah, he's like the truck ran out of gas or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, the thing I loved the most about it was that he didn't blitz at all. He was just dropped straight into coverage. It was a super weird look where the D tackle drops back, and the guy just had no idea, I guess, that he was athletic as he is, and he just went over and caught. I love that.
He pirouetted like a ballerina back there.
It was amazing. So yeah, Joe, thanks for reminding us about that because I completely honestly forgot about it.
Oh yeah, happy birthday to Joe's dad. Joe's dad turned 75.
Yeah, happy birthday, Joe's dad. I don't know if Joe's dad watches us, but even if he doesn't, we appreciate you for having such a fine son in Joe.
Yeah.
Minnesota, Detroit, we touched on quite a bit, but I mean, I'll say it. I don't want to shit on Sam Darnold because I've liked what the Vikings have done, and I think Sam Darnold has had a really good year. But God, did he look bad in this game, especially in the first half? He missed Jefferson in the end zone. Excuse me.
Whoa, that was nice. Look at that. Whoa.
He missed Jefferson in the end zone probably 3 times for touchdowns. Jefferson also dropped one in the end zone. But just a really, really weird, inconsistent game for the Vikings, who were in Detroit territory the entire first half and should have put this game really, I don't know if out of reach is the right word, but they could have easily made a statement in the first half of this game, and I think the game would have been completely different. But I mean, kudos to Detroit. They didn't make their mistakes. They kept the ball in the hands of their stud running back, Jahmyr Gibbs. He had 4 touchdowns in this game, 3 on the ground and 1 receiving, over 140 yards from scrimmage for him. And Addison was wide open on a slant route in the end zone, that on a play that was super designed for him. You could tell, and there's a video on Twitter if you type it in, like Addison, Darnold misses him or something like that. You'll see it. It was super weird for Minnesota.
The ball was high all day when they were down in the red zone. Yeah. So
does that just tell you he's a little too amped up? Maybe kind of calm the nerves a little bit, because that was a huge game. Definitely the biggest game Sam Darnold's ever played in his life. Mm-hmm. And he gets to do it again on Monday, because he gets to play Matt Stafford. That's all the games we had in Week 18. These lines are out. And some of them are a little higher than I would think. Obviously, we're going to talk about these games in depth, and we're going to pick them against the spread. But in order, Los Angeles at Houston on Saturday is Los Angeles -3. So Los Angeles -3 in Houston, which I think makes sense. Baltimore -10, we already talked about at home against Pittsburgh. I think that line is outrageously high. Even as a Ravens fan, I think 10 is just way too many. Buffalo is -8.5 against Denver. I think that's about right. I would have had it about 7.5, 8.5 makes a little sense to me. Philly's -4.5. That line actually opened at 3.5. I bet it at 3.5. And it's now at 4.5 in favor of Philly. Tampa is -3 at home against Washington on Sunday night. And then Monday night, Minnesota is -1.5 at the Los Angeles Rams on ESPN on Monday Night Football. Any of those lines stick out to you, and just anything stick out to you about this playoff slate? Do we think that the best teams in the league are in the playoffs? Do we think the Bengals were a playoff-worthy team that just didn't make it, or do you think what stands out to you? Take it wherever you want.
I think the playoffs are what they should be. Bengals didn't deserve to get in because of their defense being that atrocious.
Yeah.
But that would be a team I would not want to face in the playoffs if they did get in.
Damn right.
But
Chargers, by the way, adding Ezekiel Elliott to running back depth, I guess.
Yeah, that bizarro. But hey, look, this is what happened to the Bengals was the first 3 weeks of the season. You can't start the season 0-3 and then try to play catch up the rest of the year.
Yep.
So, those games matter. So they count.
Yeah, it's as much as week 18 and week 2, don't they?
Mm-hmm. And that's why I always love you get these people who are, like when the Ravens win, they don't win the way that this said person wants them to win. Like they didn't win by 35 points. No one fucking cares or remembers the year the Ravens won the Super Bowl. Who do they beat in week 2? Nobody remembers, and nobody should remember. And they won a damn Super Bowl. So look, a win is a win. The Bengals lost the first 3 games of the season, and it bit them in the ass at the end.
I got nothing to add. I totally agree with you. If you really want to make it into the playoffs, you can't have 8 wins by week 13 or whatever they did and try to win out and hope everything happens for you. It's just not going to work that way. Sometimes you just got to play the early part of your schedule. And if you have bad start, like the Ravens had a bad start. The Ravens were 0-2. They lost to the Raiders in week 2, a team that everyone knew sucked. And it looked bleak. And then they won 12-5 and won their division. And that includes a couple losses that a couple more losses in the season that they probably shouldn't have.
You can't lose to the Colts. We lost to the fucking Colts.
I don't know what.
Not the Colts. No, that's Gardner Minshew and the Raiders. So also, how do you lose the fucking Raiders?
I don't know where the Bengals defense ranked in the NFL. I would imagine it was close to 32. And if they would have had the 20th ranked defense in the NFL this year, I think they probably would have won 11 or 12 games. That's how good Joe Burrow was this year. That's how good Jamar Chase was this year, by the way. Jamar Chase, 17 touchdowns, 17 games. You felt him in every game. He had 1,700 yards. That's 100 yards and a touchdown every single game. That is outrageous production. Crazy that they were able to get what they did out of T. Higgins, who was hurt. Crazy that they were able to get what they did out of Chase Brown and Zach Moss after losing Joe Mixon. And it just didn't matter because their defense was that bad. And I think they really need to address it. And honestly, if it's more of the same next year, I think Zach Taylor needs to go.
Yeah. Look, how do you not make the playoffs? You have the leading passer, the leading receiver in terms of yards and touchdowns, and then the top sack guy. That's got to be a first in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't know what else to say. I think, they were bad. They were bad and they didn't deserve to make the playoffs. And if they did make the playoffs, then one of these teams would expose their terrible defense at some point. They would not be able to run through this whole playoff slate. Anyway, we are going to do our draft and everything because this is a thrown off week. We're going to do our draft on the Thursday show. Hopefully Brooks is feeling better by then. We're going to talk about the playoff games in depth. We're going to talk about the matchups, what we expect. We might even pick Super Bowl winners, see who each of us thinks is going to have a good game.
Do we think Lamar won the MVP or lost the MVP? Because 50% passer, 2 touchdowns.
I think honestly, if you're a voter, you should just look at the first 17 weeks and not look at that last week because Josh Allen clearly was sad because the team didn't matter to them.
Yeah.
And I think even then, if just look at the numbers between Josh Allen and Lamar, he literally beats him in every single category. And that's even if you take that last week out of, he beats him in every single thing except for rushing touchdowns, which he more than makes up for with more than 10 or more passing touchdowns. He's got 400 plus more rushing yards. He's got more passing yards. He's got more everything. He just had a better season. He had one of the very best seasons throwing the ball in the NFL history. And oh, by the way, he had 900 plus rushing yards at the same time. It's outrageous. If they give the MVP to Josh Allen, I'm not saying it's not deserved, but I think the best player in the NFL this year was Lamar Jackson. And maybe I'm biased. And like I said a couple times on this podcast, if you take Lamar off the Ravens and if you take Josh Allen off the Bills and replace them with Alex Smith, who I assume is the perfectly medium league average player, I think the Ravens are way better than the Bills. So if you want to give Josh Allen the MVP based on the fact that his team is not as good and they still won more games, I think that's a perfectly fine reason, but I think that has to be the reason. You cannot say that Josh Allen played better. There's just no, you just can't. He didn't. Anyway, that's my spiel. What did you think? Sorry, I ranted there and I didn't ask you.
It's okay. Don't worry about it, man. You're good. I think there's going to be voter fatigue for Lamar. I think that Josh Allen, he deserves the MVP too, and so does Saquon Barkley.
So does Joe Burrow.
There's going to be voter fatigue. I think that's going to be what ends up biting Lamar here. And in the grand scheme of things, now look, does it matter to Lamar? Maybe he hits an incentive or something in his contract by winning MVP. But if he wins a Super Bowl, I bet you he'd give that MVP back in a heartbeat.
I 100% agree with you. Go win the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl MVP, and that trophy will feel a lot better than holding that MVP trophy up for the third time. I think a lot of people say, especially on Twitter, saying last year that Lamar didn't deserve it, and you can argue that. And they're just give it to Josh Allen anyway because Lamar didn't deserve it last year, so he got his last year. Whatever. Realistically, probably McCaffrey or Dak Prescott had better. Dak Prescott had better numbers than Lamar last year on a 12-win team. And Christian McCaffrey did crazy shit last year. Tyreek Hill did crazy shit last year. But anyway, I don't think last year should have any bearing on this year. But we've seen it. LeBron James won probably 3 or 4 MVPs in his career, and he probably should have won like 8 or 9 because realistically, that dude's been the best player in the league for a really long time. Not anymore, obviously. He's old now, but. Anyway, that has been our podcast. Our draft this week is going to be chain restaurants, and this is going to be sit-down chain restaurants only. No fast food, no fast casual. So no McDonald's, and also no fast casual, no Five Guys, no Chipotle. This is going to be like Applebee's, Outback, those kind of places.
Olive Garden, stuff like that.
Not going to give all of my number 1 draft picks away here. I know Applebee's is not going to be one of them. Somebody's going to pick them, and I'm going to laugh because Applebee's sucks. But anyway, unless Applebee's wants to sponsor us, then you don't suck.
Scorched earth here, man. You're just firing away. But we're waiting to do the draft, guys, because we want Brooks to be back here. And in fact, I actually think, if I remember correctly, I think I won this week, by the way. I was looking at the numbers. I think I actually won a draft finally.
It's something unheard of on this podcast. It's like me going positive in a week of picks for the NFL. It's just not going to happen.
It's like what was the one president that never won a race at the at Nat Stadium?
It was
Teddy
one of the
Roosevelt.
Roosevelts.
One of the
I can't
Roosevelts.
remember if it was Franklin or Teddy. I think it was Teddy.
It never won. So this could be my first win. It'd be great.
Texas Roadhouse is going to be real high. If it's not a first rounder, it'll be a second rounder in that draft.
That's my number 1, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my creme de la creme.
That's my number 2. So we'll see where the draft falls. I've already made my list. But anyway, that was our Tuesday show. Like I said, guys, sorry that it was a 2-man booth. Brooks is sick. Yeah. What are we going to do? And sorry we weren't able to come to you yesterday. We tried to get everyone in here today. It didn't work out. We will be back Thursday. We're going to talk the playoffs. We're going to pick all the games against the spread. We're going to do our chain restaurant draft. If you're interested in that, send us some suggestions. Do closed restaurants count? Sure, I guess.
You can
take Bill Bateman's or Bennigan's or something like that if you want to.
You can do defunct jams.
I don't know what else is
defunct restaurants.
I can't think of any other defunct restaurants. Famous
Ponderosa?
Dave's, they still exist.
I don't know. Ponderosa?
CC's Pizza. They still have those.
What about Chi-Chi's?
Yeah, Chi-Chi's, CC's. Circuit City. All right. Anyway.
Radio Shack.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, I love you, Bri.
Love you too,
guys,
baby.
Have a great week. We'll be back with you on Thursday, hopefully with a full banger of a show for you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Subscribe.
Thursday show will be longer. Thursday show will be longer because we'll have all 3 of us, and we have a lot of stuff that we didn't get to today. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Yep. And Brian, you want to do your send off here?
Yeah.
Or are you good? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, guys, take care of yourselves. Mental health, mental health, mental health. Please, I say it every time. I do this because I have good friends who take care of me. I love them. They love me. I wouldn't be as good of a person without them. So take care of yourselves. Talk to people. Talk to anybody that you want to feel might need help. And if they're uncomfortable talking about it, that's their prerogative. That's very understandable. But just try to reach out to people.
Yeah, reach out, let them know you're there, and if they're not ready, maybe they will be down the road. And if they're never ready, at least they know that they have somebody that has their back. And that's really what matters. We all joke a lot on this podcast, but that kind of stuff really matters. Please reach out to your friends. And I love you, Bri, and I love you, Brooks, and I hope you feel better. And I think you're a super big pussy for not being here right now. I'm sorry, buddy. Feel better.
Feel better, buddy. I'm gonna go lay down myself. I'm feeling a little under the weather. So, all right, guys, take it easy.
All right. Happy Tuesday. See y'all.
Happy Tuesday. See you.